So we know that you're departing, sadly, from the television industry, which is a massive loss. The question everyone's wondering was, sacked, jumped ship?
You know, if I don't know for certain, but
Bored of TV?
I've got to tell you, if they were gonna find a creative way to sack me, I think, you know, a $71 billion transaction was a long way to go. Could have found easier ways. No, and I haven't said I'm leaving television yet.
No.
We'll see.
All right. So when you started, you had an ambitious goal at Fox to reduce ad load, making TV better, which is difficult in the US because, frankly, it's a bit rubbish, isn't it?
Yep.
And sell attention. How satisfied are you with how far you've come?
I mean, given the structural challenges in an industry, so you talk about the U.S. You say rubbish. I use the American term "suck less." So you're right. We have a long way to go in terms of the exchange that we're making with consumers on how much of their time we'd like for advertising in exchange for access to our programming, because we've kind of been in that position. The agency model is different in the US, and how much of our business runs through the agencies and the holding companies versus direct to client. And so all of these things kind of compound on making it difficult. That said, I mean, we've done entire nights where we've gone to 2 ads per pod, or closing in on 2 minutes per hour of advertising, which is kind of a goal we set. In VOD environments for FX, all advertising is 2 minutes per hour. So it's actually been, I mean, it's been going incredibly well.
Currently 19 minutes? 90 minutes of ads per hour, is that right, in the US?
It depends on the network. We have less than most.
Yeah. Okay, so part of your sort of mantra has been selling attention. Can you sort of briefly explain how that works, how you trade it, and sort of what you mean by that?
Well, I mean, theoretically, advertising is supposed to be the buying, selling, and trading of attention. That is what advertising is, right? Fox is in the audience business, right? We're in the business of creating content that draws an audience, creating and distributing content that draws an audience. What we have to trade to an advertiser is that audience. You see the rise of ad-free platforms, Hulu ad-free, Netflix, HBO, because people don't like the ad-supported environment, or at least they don't think the trade is fair, for their time and attention. And so what we've tried to do is reframe the thinking of selling advertising as selling other people's time and attention. And one way I like to bring this up with brand managers is, you could have a brand manager of a baby brand, and they say, moms and dads are the most important people in the world to us. We just love moms and dads. They don't have enough time. Then the brand manager walks out of the room, and in walks the person who's buying the media and says, I need moms and dads at a $20 CPM. Now, somewhere along the way, the industry lost the track that their CPM is that moms and dads' time. So a $20 CPM means that they're getting 2 cents for 30 seconds of their time. I thought we just talked about moms and dads don't have enough time. Couldn't we work backwards from some sort of value that's fair to them? And so it's just an interesting example to be reframing what our goal as an industry should be.
Do you think media buyers undervalue TV attention?
Yes.
Okay. So how did putting your prices go for you? Putting them up?
Yeah, no, it's another great example of the industry trying to kill itself. But in digital, YouTube or Facebook will create a new product, and they'll say, we know you've been buying this, but here's this new product. It's better than the last product, and here's how we price the new product. In TV, if I say, I want to reduce ad load, I'm going to put the ads only next to the content, I'm going to make a better product, and here's how we're going to price it. No, full stop, no. Because the goal in television for so long is television has been a commodity, and pricing and buying it has been about just getting the lowest possible price. So there's no mechanism in television to create a better product in exchange for better pricing, because it just looks like a more expensive impression.
Okay, you've talked about this also a bit, and this session and even the second session of the day looked at outcomes. Mm-hmm. You don't like this, do you? You don't think media owners should get into the outcomes game?
No.
Okay, why not?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. First, we're in the attention business and audience business. If I give you someone's attention and at the end of said ad, that person doesn't want to buy your product, should I not then let them watch the show? Like, we're in the audience business. So that's the first one. The second one is that I don't understand how a partner can be in the outcomes business and also work with your competitors. So if I tell, Ford, hey, Ford, you, me, we're in this together, I'm gonna help you sell cars. How do I sell to Toyota as well? And which media owners are only working with one per category? Now, people like to take that and say, oh, well, you just want us to spend money without ROI being a consideration, and that's not true. Brands absolutely should be in the outcomes business. Agencies absolutely should be in the outcomes business. They should be optimizing the audience and attention they buy from us to be better at outcomes. But a media owner, unless you're gonna work with one per category and then have some say on creative and have some, let's go with my favorite. I always like to use extreme examples just so people can kind of grasp the absurdity of it. Let's say I tell Ford, you and me, we're in the outcomes business together. I'm gonna help you sell trucks, right? Now I do want to be the best partner to them. But what if the next day Toyota starts giving away trucks for free? What does that occur? Like, what does that mean for us? So there's so many things that you can't take into isolation. The last reason why the outcomes business is dangerous for the television industry is that how do you measure outcomes? On what time horizon? TV's better at building brands. Is it 1 month, 2 months, a quarter, a year? Like, how long do you say value was delivered? And we're being suckered.
But can't they set those KPIs though? No.
Sure, but we're being suckered into, like, look, I would do the same thing. If I was Facebook and I was Google or any digital player, I would do the same thing. I'd say, come on over here, guys. Come fight us on this outcomes basis thing when they can tag pretty much everyone on the internet, and everyone on the internet buys an awful lot of stuff, it turns out, right? Causal relationship be damned. So basically, TV's taking the bait and thinking that it's gonna out Google or out data Facebook, like, good luck.
Yeah, so don't fight them on their own.
No.
But I've got fundamental issues with that because buyers are saying they need to prove the value in order to spend more. We just had Expedia on stage say it. We know how they work. They work with a simple algorithm. You demonstrate efficiency, prove the value of the medium. Yeah. We spend more.
Sure.
So you're saying I don't want to get into that game.
Well,
you can't ignore what your clients are asking.
No, and you don't ignore it, but there's too many pieces to it. Like you look at the brands that are kind of the insurgent brands right now, the Dollar Shave Clubs, Warby Parkers, that are taking a bite out of like the big multinational holding company CPG goods. And take Apple. I mean, if you took the logo off the top of their media buy, it would look like something out of the 1950s. And wanna know why? Because they're building a premium brand. That premium brand means premium price. If you're saying, I'm not saying there isn't room for direct response in the market. There absolutely is. There always has been. You can discount. You can buy the end caps at the retail stores, and you can put stuff on sale.
But TV has been selling based on their branding capabilities, and for some reason it's not working.
No, it's not that it's not working. It's that we haven't.
It's not resonating then. They do have a short-term effect too. So.
Well, and they should do both. But I think that the balance between understanding what's brand building, what's direct response, and also not even separating the two. I mean, I don't know if you guys, have the same Pizza Hut ads here I see, but it's a brand piece first, then it's product attributes, then it's call Pizza Hut. But we don't just measure how many people called that day, because if they did, they probably wouldn't buy a whole lot of television, and yet television drives the market for them writ large. So it's very hard to put things into isolation. And yes, there is some of it that comes back to what are your goals as a marketer, and over what time horizon are you going to be measured?
Effectiveness studies, the AAK study that we saw this morning, Ubiquity. One thing I don't understand, and I know you speak directly with clients, is TV clearly works, it's a marvelous medium. Why aren't brands taking more responsibility over the health of television?
Well, I guess there's a couple of reasons, because the industry historically has been, okay, it's in the US, it's upfront time, let's fight over our pricing and let's see who wins, which isn't a good footing for much of negotiating as partners or in a shared ecosystem. Up until ad blockers and ad-free options kind of started to proliferate, the consumer didn't have another choice. So, there wasn't a need to kind of say, my argument is that a modern revenue organization for television, their goal is not to maximize revenue. Their goal is to maximize revenue without losing audience, right? Because I can always make you more money by putting more ads in over the short term.
Okay, collaboration, the new C word. OpenAP is a really important milestone for the TV market. I think we can assume the audience here, because they're a smart bunch, understands it. Has OpenAP gone far enough for you, and where would you like to see it go?
No, it certainly hasn't gone far enough yet, but it's gone as far as you could hope for something that just launched in the past year.
Yeah.
As a forum,
so you want to see that as a unified buy across the entire.
Yeah, something of the sort. You could see a day where it kind of gets to that. It's the idea of TV as a platform needs to occur if TV is going to kind of continue to survive in an ad-supported way that we see it today, right? Like the evidence is there. And the only way that can happen, and I guess, this is yet another reason why outcomes are going to be problematic for the TV industry. I have people's time and attention to sell, right? The outcome of this person, that person fits into multiple buckets. They could be a frequent traveler, they could also be head of household, they could also be an auto intender, they could also be this. How do I price it? Which one of those should I pick to price that person's time at? Well, the market has to price it. They should bid against each other and what it's worth to them, right? But that's not, ROI isn't an input for what people's time is worth, it's an output of what you do with people's time.
Right. Do you think Europe, I know you've been here for a few weeks, do you think they need an OpenAP?
I wouldn't be enough of an expert to speak on exactly what's needed here. I know the market's different enough. Actually, I'm going to go see our colleagues here after this talk. I do think that, yes, long form.
Do you think TV maybe
yes, I do.
compete at that sort
I
of
do.
like,
Yeah.
okay.
I think treating long form episodic content and entertainment, if you want it to be ad supported, there needs to be a simple way for the market to correctly price what the value is.
I am going to come to the audience. Joe's gladly agreed without me even asking him that he's going to take some questions. So just be prepared for those. I'm a little confused about OpenAP, so I just want to ask you to tell me how it works. Let's say someone's interested in buying a truck. Mm-hmm. How do you sort of fairly offer inventory via your tools? So they plug in and they do all the segmentation for truck buying? Like, is it weighted in someone else's, how does that work? Everyone's happy.
There's like a warehouse full of hamsters and wheels, and the hamsters run on the wheels until we sell a truck.
Okay.
It's not much different than basically, so you have pre-posting and say, okay, how do you define auto intender? By the way, I have we don't even have time for it because we wouldn't get to questions, but a whole rant about this idea of the right person, the right ad, at the right time is magic. Imagine a world where you only targeted just the person who bought your product, then what would a brand mean anymore, right? If the neighbors don't know what it stands for, if the loved ones don't know what it stands for, then what's a brand if you had perfect targeting? But that said, we do want to target more the people who live inside of our target zone. So you would say, here's a set of data. The networks then look back and say, okay, here's our shows that over-index against this unique data set. They runs, and then OpenAP posts it, so it's not grading its own homework saying, great, we got you a ton of auto intenders. So it's a very simple system on the front and back end right now.
Was that difficult to organize together with three big media companies?
Yes.
Yeah. How long did it take?
I mean, from first conversation to the first three coming on board, probably almost 6 months, and then to adding.
A while.
That's a long time for me.
Yeah.
I used to work in tech.
Yeah. Okay. Does anyone want to ask Joe a question while he's here and still has a job in television? Mm-hmm. Is anyone? I can't see. We got okay. Andrew, just put his hand up there on the left-hand side, or you're right. There we go. Mm-hmm. And there's one behind you as well.
Hi, Joe. Andrew from Discovery. If you're trading on attention, what do you think are the most relevant metrics for that?
Yeah. So I think kind of scoring impressions. So basically, what I'd propose, and we've begun to develop. So Moat does a lot of this in the digital world. I think TV needs to basically make a unified. So comparing apples to apples, we have impressions in TV and they have impressions in the digital world. I won't go into the the obvious, 1 second isn't the same as 2 seconds, and how do they count? But let's just forget all of that, and let's just say impressions shouldn't be binary. They shouldn't either be an impression or not an impression. They should be, let's just make it up, scored on 1 to 100. How much of the screen did it take up? How long did it play for? Did it have sound? And then score every impression on it, right? Because one of the myths in digital is a myth of infinite, and it's keeping pricing down. Let's say you have a 30-second commercial, right? And you show the first 2 seconds of that commercial 1 trillion times. 1 trillion. No one knows what's in second 4 of that commercial, right? And so there should be a different media buying mechanism that kind of scores everything on likelihood of attention. And there's other things that get really complicated. If I was running an agency, I'd go out and buy every A position in every VOD set-top box because the person had to press play. It means it's impossible for a person not to be there because they just hit play, right? That should be the best, that's the most likelihood of attention possible on a full screen with no distraction. Like how that won't sell out, because there's nothing that values that impression over another impression.
I've been stealing that line actually today.
Yeah.
It's a very good one. There was a question behind there, there's a couple of hands are going up. Say your name, please.
Nick Manning from MediaLink. Today's C word is collaboration. There is another C word that gets in the way of that sometimes, which is competition. My question is, in the US marketplace, can you get to real collaboration and still have the upfront markets the way you have them now? And if not, how would that change?
I think you can, because what you're unifying is how things are termed, bought, and sold. I disagree with people thinking that a majority of the inventory will look like digital in the near future, because when you have launches over the course of a year, like you're going to launch a movie in May, you need to reserve inventory. So there's so much inventory reserving going on in the US market so that you know where you're going to have it and you can fix your price, because what happens when it's time to launch the movie, if the price has gone way up, like how do you launch? It's like taking futures in an oil market, right? So I don't think that will change. And I think that the networks have to focus on competing on what makes them different and creative, not, media pricing.
What sort of advice would you give for media owners around the room? I mean, there's tons of them here. They're all trying to decide what to do to grow, thrive, defend, attack, build, change. What's your sort of, top level advice you'd give them?
I think that you see what's happening in kind of the media sector, like matter to people. Again, a lot of the digital media companies rush to compete with Facebook and Google on Facebook and Google's turf of volume. And then they did it on Facebook and Google, which was particularly interesting. But think, I have Fox did an investment in a company called The Skim a while back, and we'd look at media companies that if they woke up tomorrow, would they notice that it was missing, right? So that's a big deal. I think brand is important, and I can't say it enough. Like this idea of Alexa get me batteries versus Alexa get me Duracell will be the difference in pricing, right? That'll be your margin in the future, and I think the same thing happens in media. I think there'll be brands that matter. Then there'll be the low-cost alternatives where you're commoditized and competing with the platforms, and the middle is got to find a side that it's going to be on.
Okay, I like to end on future stuff and pointless quick-fire questions that are fairly meaningless, but you can just give yes/no answers to. More collaboration in the industry?
Hopefully.
Okay.
I already broke the rules. This is great.
Okay, more awareness from senior marketers and CMOs that digital can be a little bit fishy.
Yes.
Really? Okay. Will more big brands start spending more on branding? Change that ratio that we talked about today.
No.
Okay. Who will go out of business?
A lot of people.
In this space, can you be more specific of the types?
Okay. I don't know what you're asking.
Okay. What's next for you?
Great question.
Okay, we'll see Joe on some beach, probably, looking rather tanned in a few years' time. Can everyone give a big hand for Joe coming here and doing this for me? Thank you very much, mate.